Good evening, viewers, and welcome to Time with Your Banker and Financial Advisor, sponsored by the Data Bank and Securities and Exchange Commission. We are continuing from where we left off last week, and we are still on pensions. With me again is Mrs. Gillian Hammah, the Group Chief Marketing Officer of Data Bank.
When you've worked hard for your money, you want to make sure you're investing it with the right company. And when you need your money, it will be there for you. As Ghana's leading investment bank, Data Bank has been helping Ghanaians achieve financial independence since 1990. At Data Bank, you can purchase mutual funds, treasury bills, or shares. We're one of Ghana's leading pension and provident fund managers.
Backed by our world-class research team, Data Bank has a proven track record of strong performance and good corporate governance. Knowing where to invest is key. Invest wisely, invest with Data Bank.
Mrs. Gillian, last week it was very interesting how you broke down investment and how one can start saving towards one's pension at a very early age, from 16, 15, 16, yes. You can start saving your 25 cedis, because sometimes relatives comes to visit, and when they come and visit and they are going, at least take 5 cedis, 10 cedis yes. Here and there. You can put those monies together and start putting it away towards your retirement. And as you've said, it will cushion everybody, and we'll all be better off in the next 20 or 30 years. Absolutely. And it will also inculcate the habit of saving, so people will not be just using monies anyhow. Because these days, children don't want to even eat in the house. They always want to go and buy takeaway and in packs, when you can be keeping this money in investment. Yeah, what we were talking about your tour. How receptive were Ghanaians towards that tour? And you said it was 50-50, somewhere.
So, you know, the thing is, they were all receptive. And many of them said they wish they had heard what we were saying 10 years before, 15 years before. So, as for receptiveness, they were there. But some of the ones that were older were now saying, boy, I feel like it's too late. It was not. But even in talking to them, what we realize is that a lot of people, even SNIT, they don't understand. So they have never looked at their SNIT statement. Some people are not even aware whether their companies are really contributing for them.
Wow. So,
you know, recently there was a notice that went out by SNIT to say that they're going to be sending out statements from October of this year to December. So they want everybody to go and update their information. And I encourage anybody watching, update your information with SNIT, because when they do that and they send you your statement, you will then get to check it and see. So things that you should be looking for would be, when do they have as your first date of work? Sometimes you think SNIT is being, like your company is contributing on your behalf, only to find out that SNIT never got any payment. So you want to check and see, when do they have as your first date of employment? You want to also check for each year, how many months were contributions made for you? Was it 12 months out of the year? Was it 11? Was it 10? Because if there's a difference, it can cause problems. What happens is, sometimes people don't check. Then they get to retirement and they need their money. And suddenly SNIT is delaying, because SNIT is saying, what you are telling us is not matching what we have. And it's not when you need your money at retirement, that's when you're now starting to sort through some of these things, because the records that they need may have been from a company that you worked at 10 years before, 15 years before, and you may not even be able to get it. So every year, at least once a year, you should be checking. And that's one of the things that we found, that people were there and they said, I don't even know who's managing my tier 2. I don't know anything about it. They just didn't know. So that was one of the biggest learnings. There was another lady, so I had shared the story of the guy who was 51. There was another lady that we met who was 77. She's in retirement, lives in Takoradi and owns now a private school. But she said how she started investing and how she learned the importance of it was from her mother. Her mother used to sell in the market. And her mother would give her like something to go and sell and say, okay, for example, take the pen. Go to the market, sell it for 1 CD, 50 pesos. Bring the money back. She would go bargain, and maybe get 170. But she would take the money and give it to her mother. What her mother was doing for her is that extra, anytime she brought back the extra, her mother would put it in an account for her. She didn't know until she got to teacher training college. And then her mom gave her the bank statement to say, here's how much money you have.
That's a wise woman.
And she said when she realized what that did for her, she didn't have to borrow money for school fees, nothing. She said she continued investing, and even for her grandchildren, every grandchild she has started investing for from now. The whole point being, one, the earlier you start, the better. I said that. But also know what is required, because there's a statistic that says in Ghana specifically, out of every 100 people that reach age 60, only 2 will retire comfortably. Only 2. 23 will continue working, rather must continue working. And 75 will have to depend on SNIT, relatives, or some other charity to make it.
Wow.
2, Betty. Now, you may think that that is extreme. So let me come at it another way. SNIT in December 2018, they released their monthly payments that they pay. The lowest end was around 300 CDs. So that's the smallest amount somebody got. The highest amount was 55,000 CDs a month. A month.
A month.
Good. Now,
that is somebody's salary for a whole year.
Exactly. Now, what do you think is the average? So your low end is 300, your high end is 55,000. What do you think the average person gets?
Wow.
The average, Betty, is 739 CDs. That's your average. So I got one of my guys in finance to say, all right, how many people then would need to be at the low end to pull 55,000 down to 700? And he worked it out, it was 98%.
98%.
Which means that only your 2% are up there. Now, I will go on to tell you that SNIT, even the 300, they subsidize. Not everybody can even get there on their own salary.
The 300?
Even the 300.
Subsidized.
So in May of this year, it was for May Day, the Director General for SNIT was going around doing a talk.
I remember.
He spoke about the fact that, one, there are only 1.5 million contributors to SNIT. Now, if you have a population of 29 million and you have 13 million at least who are working, and only 1.5 million are even being contributed to SNIT.
And out of that,
where's the rest of them?
Apart from that 1.3, how many are earning above 300?
So he told us. So he said, out of the 1.5 million, 60%, 50%, in fact, let me check. 50% earn less than 1,000 a month. Out of that 50% that earn less than 1,000 a month, 60% earn less than 600. So the vast majority of people are 400, 500, 600. What kind of life are you going to have? Because when you get older, medication doesn't get cheaper because you don't have money. The cost of medication is the cost of medication.
But if you are earning 300 at age 21, 22, and putting away 25 cedis a month, I think, as you've said, the earlier you start, the better.
Yes, you can do something.
Yes.
It will count for something. But if you are earning 300 and even that you're consuming all,
the 300 is not even enough for that person.
It's not. And that person will still have 3 or 4 or 5 children. So when we were on the tour, it was just people, it was a feeling of helplessness where people were like, I appreciate the education. I wish I knew more. I wish you could be telling everybody I know the same thing. And so we are trying, but it feels sometimes like no matter how many people you talk to, it's still, there are so many more people who haven't heard and who don't realize. But Betty, it is no joke. It's no joke at all. And it's a very depressing.
This is very serious.
It's a very, if you're not careful, it's a very depressing
No wonder. Recently, one of my colleagues, he's retired. He told me he's earning 400 a month from SNIT. I said, what are you talking about? 400 Ghana cedis.
Good. I'm glad you brought that up. Because the other problem that we found, and I mean, SNIT, they talk about it, but people don't get it, is SNIT pays on your base salary. Their calculation is on your base salary. So if you get a job where your salary is, let's say, 500 or 1,000 cedis, then you get allowances of another 1,000 or 1,005 by the time you get fuel, clothing, all of those things. At the end of the day, SNIT is only paying you on 1,000, and you're getting a portion of that. So that is why you can even have some people who you thought, hey, they were earning lots of money, how come they're only getting this small amount? Partly because the base salary was still small.
And the allowances, that person was not prudent enough to put some of the allowances away.
Exactly. And so you find that even, you would think that this is limited to people who maybe are not well educated or nothing, but it is happening to even the most educated people. A couple years ago, we did a retirement seminar at University of Ghana, and we were talking to a number of professors and the staff. And I remember one of them shared a story of a colleague who, he was going down the street and he saw this guy, and he had retired, I think for about 10 years. He was about 70, and he saw the man walking very quickly around 7 p.m. in the evening. And he's asking, where are you going? And the guy says, oh, he has to get home because the landlord will close the gate if he doesn't get home by 7. Now, this is somebody who has been a professor 20 years, 30 years. And at age 60 and 70, you are running home because you can only find a place to rent and the landlord will lock you up. And you can't do better. And you hear stories of people who, because they had housing, they didn't prepare. Then they get to retirement, they don't have a house. Now you find the university is trying to push them out and they won't leave. Because they don't have anywhere to go. Not because they didn't have money, but they didn't plan.
It all boils down to planning.
It boils down to planning.
Somebody would ask this question, that looking at the current financial crisis, if you've put all your monies in investment, at a maybe you have spread into 3 or 4 or 5 institutions. Now the wind is, that blew is such that about 3 of those institutions can go down. So you see the difficulty.
It is, so from that standpoint, it's right now we're in a very difficult time because even as I'm talking, people will get the importance of planning and saving. But in their minds and their heart of hearts, they're now saying, but I don't trust any of you anymore. Because I don't know that if I give you my money today, in 1 year or even 20 years,
how do I get it back?
And every time we go out, they ask us that question. And the response that we can give is, one, nobody can guarantee the future. Like we can't predict it, and we shouldn't expect it to be predicted. But what can help is how the company does its governance. That you can use as an indicator of whether they will be here to stay or they will be gone tomorrow. Because a lot of the challenges that we have, some were self-inflicted because of poor management. Others, it was just unfortunate that some people got caught up in it. But there are good companies still out there. Yes, we have problems, but it doesn't mean that every company has a problem. What investors need to then do is ask questions. And don't just hear, oh, go here and you're gone. That's the key. They must ask. And there's a regulator. Our industry has a regulator, and that regulator has a view of all the companies. And that regulator is willing to tell you whether company A is doing what they should be doing or they're not. So before you invest with any company, even with DataBank, call the regulator and say, I'm thinking of investing with this company. Are there any complaints about them? Just ask. You can even go to their website. You'll know. But our biggest problem is we haven't asked. We hear this company is offering a high return, they go there.
You quickly
this
go.
company is offering a high return.
It's about the
they're
return.
gone. That's it.
And not about investing prudently.
That is it. And that is what has gotten most people in the long run, that they didn't stop to ask the right questions. Some because they didn't know what questions to ask. Others, they just didn't think they had to ask and they moved ahead. So it is difficult. But then, so some people too, in response to that, will say, okay, let me put my money in real estate because that will be there.
For the past 9 years, I know people who have put their houses there. Nobody has bought it.
That's the thing. And
even 10 years, because the last, I knew a house that has been on sale since 2009.
And nobody's buying. Now,
and it is in a prime area.
Imagine now you have hit 60 and you're retired and you have your money in real estate. The problem with real estate is not liquid.
That is it.
So when you need to pay a bill, you need to buy medication, you need to do something. If
your
nobody's buying, it's locked up. So what I always tell people is real estate is not bad, but have a balance. So have a balance of
liquidity,
things like that, but stay liquid.
Yes.
You must have access to cash somewhere.
Where?
That is it. And that cash shouldn't just be sitting down being idle. It should still be growing.
Yeah.
Because every year, whether you like it or not, we have inflation.
Yeah.
So everything keeps getting more and more expensive. So you can take the cash, yes, and say, I'm going to stay liquid and I'm going to put it under my mattress. No problem. But next year, it won't be worth as much.
But armed robbers too are watching.
Exactly.
So it's at a big risk.
Exactly.
Keeping monies on you.
But that's what some people are doing now because of the times we're in as well.
But it's very risky.
It is.
Because apart from they taking your money, if they kill you, you know you are dead. But they might wound you and you end up in pain for the rest of your life. So why do you have to keep monies on you, especially at home?
That's it. So the best thing we can do is let's do our research and let's get counsel and then invest.
You know, Ghanaians, they will not want to pay money to consult. They always want these consultations to be free.
And it's free. Like if Betty, if you come to DataBank today, we have relationship managers. They're all licensed. The advice is free. All you have to do is listen. You
know, they before they come to DataBank, they want to get somebody to give them kind of feedback or give them information. Yeah. They don't want to go to the regulator. They will say the regulator is in bed with some of the institutions. So they want an independent person. And that independent person, they don't want to pay that person, but they need that information. So because they don't want to pay, when they hear their friend investing somewhere at a higher rate, you see them jumping there. And instead of them, even if that, you go to the institution, let them talk to you. If you are not convinced, it's your own money.
Then you go.
You go.
That's it.
Rather than just follow the crowd and lose. Because monies that have been lost, Gillian,
is serious.
The calls I get, sometimes I can't sleep.
It's very serious. It's, and I'm sure, I think everybody knows at least one person who has been affected.
For me, the list, right? What retirement plan do you have?
We have a number of things. First and foremost, we have education. And we have resources that you can use to educate yourself before you even invest one peso. Then we have a number of different products. And it's important to look at companies that have range, because another thing that you need to know is the way you feel about risk and your money moving up and down is different from how I may feel.
Everybody has got their own appetite.
Exactly. And because we each have our own risk appetite, it means that what works for me may not work for you. So at Data Bank, if you are somebody who doesn't like risk at all, start with treasury bills. It won't move. You'll get your return. Or if you want the flexibility to get your money anytime without having to wait for it to mature, you have M Fund.
Okay.
Low risk is not moving, you're okay.
But anytime you want your money, you can
You
go
can
for
get it in a
Okay.
day. So the standard turnaround time is 1 day,
Okay.
one business day from when you
Okay.
request it. You'll get it, regardless of the amount.
Okay.
If you feel like, but the thing you have to realize is that when the risk is low, generally the returns are low.
Yeah.
Ghana is a bit different in this case because on our fixed income investments, the government is giving high returns. So in a way, it's a bit upside down. Generally, you will find that fixed income is low, equities, so stocks are
rather
higher.
high.
And it's still that way, but in Ghana, it's a little, to use a Ghanaian term, some way.
I understand.
So, but depending on your risk appetite, you look at treasury bills or M Fund if it's low. If it's medium, you do what you have what is called balanced funds.
But one should know that if you are breaking an account, you might lose some monies.
So it depends on the kind.
Okay.
So there are certain investments. So every investment has fees attached.
Okay.
You will either pay the fee upfront or when you're taking the money out. If you pay it upfront, when you withdraw,
say interest. If you say fee.
No. So fee, separate.
Okay.
So there's fee and there's interest.
Okay.
So when you go to an investment company,
Okay.
any investment company at all, they will tell you one of two things. That either the investment has what is called a front load fee. So as an example, if it's 1%, it means when you bring me 100 CDs, I will take 1 CD as my fee. That fee will go to paying the fund managers, helping to run the fund.
Yeah.
Yes. That's different from the interest you get.
Yeah.
The other kind of fee is called an exit load fee, which means you won't pay any fee when you're coming in. But if you leave within the first maybe 3 years or 5 years, then you'll pay something.
That is when the investment extends beyond 5 years.
Exactly. And so usually those funds, they tell you hold it for more than 5 years. So it is one of those things. And you need to know what the fees are. And you need to make sure that you are comfortable. But at the end of the day, there are some investments that are very smooth and there are others that move a lot. The ones that move a lot over the long term tend to give you higher returns. So if I take EPAC as an example, it's like this. But if you look at it over the long term, it beats every other fund in Ghana. But not everybody is suited for EPAC. Because if you're the kind of person who will, every day you call Data Bank and you say, what's my balance today? What's my balance today?
You can't do EPAC.
EPAC is not for you. You go and you stay in M Fund. So that's the whole point, that as it relates to retirement or investing in general, we have products for every different kind of risk appetite. For those who are preparing for retirement, for those who want to buy a house, whatever it is, we have it. But before you invest, you must know yourself as an investor. And what your neighbor or your friend feels is not what you have to feel. And that's the thing. So that's what we try to educate people on. The products are there. We have, I think, the broadest range in Ghana of any investment company. And we keep looking for new things to do and new ways to tailor the product to meet different needs. But I can't emphasize enough that first step, get educated. Get educated.
Ask questions.
Ask questions. And when you ask, wait for the answers. Sometimes
Don't
people
rush.
ask and they've left before the answers even come.
They are in a hurry.
You know, or they feel intimidated to ask. But ask.
It's your own money.
It's your own money that you have worked hard for. Nobody can kill you for asking. If you come to Data Bank and ask, I can't do anything to you. I am obligated to answer. And if I don't answer, you can go to the regulator and say, I asked and they didn't answer. That's the right that an investor have, and they need to know their rights. And many of them don't know it. And so they just take advice, sometimes wayward advice, and then they get into trouble.
Your last word.
My last
Unfortunately,
word.
our time is up.
Yes, my last word is start investing today. Because if you sleep and you wake up, one day is gone.
Yeah.
And every day you sleep and wake up and you don't invest, you have cost yourself money. And you have therefore increased the amount that you will need to invest to get to your goals. So invest wisely. I would recommend you invest with DataBank. That's my final word.
Thank you for coming.
You are welcome, Betty.
Yeah, this is where we'll end today's episode on Time with Your Banker and Financial Advisor. I think we've learned a lot. And if you have money and you want to put it away, do it early. You can, as we say, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. If you are industrious, you can split your monies into two. You can build up a small business by yourself, and then you put the other away. And as you are earning profit on your business, you can be topping up on your investment. But don't take your salary and use all on yourself thinking you will retire and SNIT, or you get your benefit from SNIT. As we've all learned, SNIT will pay you, but how much? Your tier 2 will come, but for how long will you spend that money? If you have your own monies aside your SNIT and your tier 2, you realize that you retire, and you retire very comfortably, because as we are aging, it comes with a whole lot of diseases and sicknesses. Our health goes down. But if we are financially cushioned, you realize that you'll be able to buy your medications and you will live long and you have your peace. Thank you for coming, Gillian.
You are welcome.
And thank you for watching Time with Your Banker and Financial Advisor, sponsored by the Securities and Exchange Commission and DataBank. We'll see you again next week.